You were a low tier.
Bro, I was just about to leave, bro. You added me at the right time, bro.
Low tier, good argument.
How you misunderstand my argument that badly, bro? Look, I'm gonna just say that I said that for every claim the author makes, it is most likely true. Our first impression, it is most likely true.
Okay, so every claim that the author makes is most likely true.
Given properties.
Most likely true is not an argument that establishes a power in a versus debate. So it's an epistemic hunch. That's all you're doing. Wait, don't interrupt me. It's an epistemic hunch. What you're doing is epistemic hunch. A hunch cannot guarantee scope, mechanics, or priority. Without those, it automatically is to a structural win condition like Wally's. So listen, for example, your claim is basically for any claim an author makes, that's what you're saying, for any claim an author makes about their story, we should treat that claim as most likely true by default because the author is describing their own narrative. That's clear. That's literally what you're saying. So listen, shut up. So listen. So the argument form that you're attempting to use is not analytic. It's not deductive. It's not modal. It's not modal. It's an inductive case. You're making an inductive case, right? So the inference is, but inductively reasonable is not sufficient for debate conclusion. The failure point, when you're saying in the versus debate, right? It is reasonable to believe the claim. Then imagine you're asking what must be true in the matchup. Your conclusion explicitly contains most likely, and that means that there exists. Shut up. Let me respond. That means that there exist an admissible scenarios where the statement is true in intent, but insufficient in scope, or insufficient or in operation, or insufficient against another power. So that just alone disqualifies it from grounding a win condition.
Bro, oh my gosh. Why is it? You said that probabilistic claims are going to be insufficient regarding a versus battle debate. That refers, or when you're making a claim like that, it depends on how a versus battles debate is structured, right? So I think a versus battle debate isn't structured based off only necessary claims like must, have. No, it's not. It depends on the individual making a proposition. Versus battle debates requires two or more characters, two or more debaters that are going to make a set of propositions that are going to hold a set of positions. And these positions can be anything. So it depends on your position. If your position is stating a necessary claim, the conclusion or the things that you have to prove, the conclusion of that claim is obviously going to have to be a necessary conclusion. I'm not making a necessary commitment at all. I just believe my character most likely wins.
So you're wrong about the debate standard. A versus debate.
So what is the debate standard?
Be quiet. I'm about to answer. Don't do that. So I'm about to answer. So a versus debate can include probabilistic claims, but probabilistic claims cannot establish a decisive win condition when the opposing side offers a structural or modal one, right? So that is not a preference. That's a concept. That's a consequence of how propositions complete.
Repeat what you just said.
Oh, you weren't tracking. Absolutely.
All I hear is
listen. Don't interrupt me. So what you're doing is you're mixing participation rules with victory conditions that you're literally fucking lost. Okay. So the only thing that you're right about is that yes, in a versus battle or in a versus debate, multiple propositions, different argument styles, and probabilistic reasonings and inductive claims are allowed. That only answers what is allowed to be. It only answers what is allowed to be proposed. It does not answer what is sufficient to decide a matchup. You absolute idiot. Why the probabilistic claim loses its structural claim, or why the probabilistic claim just loses its structural claims, is because the principle that's going on here, and you keep missing, is that, or if one side argues X most likely has ability A, and the other side argues, given the structure of interaction, even if A exists, it cannot resolve before priority is taken. Then the probabilistic claim is irrelevant to outcome. It's not disallowed. It's irrelevant. Absolute idiots. This is not about banning probability. It is about dominance between claims. So basically,
yes, dominance.
So listen, let's imagine a Wally claim, right? When regulatory structures fail, motion persists. Therefore, interactional priority exists. Your claim, the author most likely meant that the character has X. Even if X exists, it must still activate, apply, or resolve all of which presuppose ordering. So your proposition never intersects the decisive layer of this debate. Give an argument.
What did you prove that this is going to be the standard of debating? Secondly, why do I have to follow this scope of what you're saying? Go ahead.
Bet. So you said prove that it's going to be the scope of debate.
Exactly. This nigga just talking.
What are you? Absolute. Don't interrupt me. Listen, you're trying to go to the comments because you're trying to dodge. So listen, don't do that. So listen, you don't have to follow my code, quote unquote, you absolute low tier. You're just already following a standard the moment you argue for a winner, you absolute idiot. The moment you say X, shut up. The moment you say X beats Y, you commit yourself to a outcome determinative criteria. Those criteria cannot be merely probabilistic if the opponent presents a stronger outcome dominating claim. You absolute idiot. That's not my rule. You're saying for me to prove you have to abide by my rule? That's literally how comparison works. You're such a low tier. Goodness gracious, give an argument now.
Dude, if I make oh my gosh. If I make a claim X is true, that can either be a probabilistic claim or a definitive claim. It depends on how you suffice the claim to be the case, and it also depends on the entailments. So just because I say that Luffy wins, that doesn't mean that I believe that Luffy must win. Yes, the necessary condition can be applied within the proposition at face value, but hold on. So I believe that Luffy most likely wins the perspective. Yes, most likely wins. And if you provide evidence on why it's the case that your character does win, obviously your character or the evidence or the position outweighs mine. But that's what is going to be put into question here. I'm just saying that my character most likely wins given a set of abilities. That's all it is. I don't know what you mean.
Are you done? So again, you're mistracking. You just conceded. The moment you say X most likely wins, you are no longer asserting a win condition. You are asserting a feasible preference. You're literally shut up. The moment you say X most likely wins, you're no longer asserting a win condition. You're asserting some form of the feasible preference. In a versus debate, the feasible preferences lose to outcome determining arguments. Your claim, I already fucking give the argument for that. Where you're wrong, you're literally saying probability cannot survive dominance. That's literally what you're saying. So the reason why probability cannot survive dominance, that's the reason, right? So let's say, here's a key distinction, right? So imagine a probabilistic claim in many cases, X wins. Just keep that in your mind. And that's a probabilistic claim. And a dominant structural claim would say something like, in all admissible cases of interaction, Y wins. When these two things interact with each other or conflict or whatever may be the case, the dominant claim overrides the probabilistic one automatically, not because probability, and it's not because probability is illegal. It's because the probability does not decide outcomes when necessity is established. You absolute low tier. Your own example literally proves this. Shut up. Stop interrupting me, low tier. Your own example proves this. You said, I believe Luffy most likely wins if you provide evidence your character wins. Obviously, that outweighs mine. That's literally what you said, right? So that's correct. That exactly is the point, you absolute idiot bimbo head. That's exactly the point, you absolute bimbo head. Give an argument.
Low tier. What's in question, I don't know if you're understanding, but what's in question is when we're trying to determine or come to a conclusion on what a win condition is, what's in question is if we should only appeal to definitive propositions. What's in question, when you're affirming a win condition, what's in question is if you should only, or if you can only use proposition, right?
You're such a low tier. I'm not saying you can't use probability. You absolutely fucking low tier. You're not allowed to treat probability as decisive once necessity is established.
Let me finish.
Give an argument.
Oh my gosh. Yes, probability cannot be used as an establishment. That's completely fine. That is the whole entire point of probability. But what's in question as of now, in the hypothetical case, if we accept that X, this necessary thing, is true, and this probabilistic thing is true, obviously the thing that is necessary is going to override the other. But what's in question is if your character winning is going to be something that's necessary. That's all in the question. That's all what's in question. It being, yes, it can override it. That's completely fine. But we have to debate on whether this thing is actually necessary or not. We have to debate on whether this thing is actually or not.
Shut up. You asked me a question. Shut up. So listen, you literally did. So this is the exact thing that the debate hinges at. Sure. The question is not whether probabilistic propositions are allowed. You absolute low tier. You're still confused on that. The only question is whether the win condition you are defending is necessary or merely likely. It's merely likely. If the proposition that you're asserting is merely likely, it cannot override a demonstrated necessary win condition. So the entire fight collapses. You absolute bimbo.
No, it doesn't. That's stupid.
It literally does collapse.
The fight doesn't collapse.
Shut up. It merely, so listen, all that it established, this is the only thing that established. A win condition, if necessary, only if there is no coherent interaction model where all granted premises hold and the opportunity and the opponent still wins.
I didn't hear the first part.
What it means to establish necessary win conditions. This is what it means. A win condition is necessary if and only if there is no coherent interaction model where all granted premises hold and the opponent still wins. You absolute low tier. You're such a fucking trash.
A win condition is necessary if and only if. What do you mean? I don't care for a win condition being necessary. I think it still depends on who's arguing over that. And it doesn't matter. Again, I don't subscribe to that idea of what a win condition is. Secondly, the versus battle wouldn't collapse if I would not. If the versus battle wouldn't collapse, the claim that is necessary obviously will overcome the other. I don't think we disagree. I just want to move on to the next point.
So listen, what you just said here was absolute concession. We do not disagree on substance. The only disagreement is left verbal, you absolute idiot. So all you're rejecting some form of normative requirement for the win condition must be, or for what it must be, right? So that's not disputing the logical fact that necessary claims dominate probabilistic ones when both are on the table. That's literally not disputing it. All you're saying here is that at the bottom line, you don't have to subscribe to necessity-based definitions of win conditions. But if someone does successfully argue necessity, probability will not save the opposing one. So what you're saying is your claim right here, he has subjective reality because it's most likely to be the case, right?
Well, that doesn't even make any sense. But that's, bro, oh my God, we don't disagree at all, bro. Even on substance, verbally at all.
Oh, so we don't disagree.
Wait.
So listen, so it's most likely the case that he has subjective reality.
Let me finish.
Is it most likely the case that he has subjective reality?
Let me clarify. Stop.
Answer the question. Is it most likely the case that he has subjective reality?
Stop, bro. Stop. Please don't.
Is it most likely the case that he has subjective reality? Answer the question.
Let me finish. You just
Is it most likely the case that he has subjective reality?
Bro, we was just having a good conversation. Stop, bro.
Is it most likely the case that he has subjective reality? It's not hard to answer.
Stop. Yes,
bro.
Is it most likely the case? You just cut me off.
Oh, so yeah,
I didn't say yes to anything. Stop, bro. Oh my God, this is so weird, bro. You a troll or what? Can you stop and let me respond to what you're saying? Jesus,
you just conceded, but continue, ramble.
Oh my fucking gosh, you won't even let a nigga speak. So, bro, nobody cares on it. Yes, if you successfully argue on a necessary thing being the case, it's completely fine. Obviously, it's going to overcome probabilistic cases because probabilistic cases are contingent. Contingency is below necessary things. That's completely fine. When you're arguing a win condition can be contingent, and you can argue a win condition contingently, and you can also argue a win condition necessarily. If you agree to that, then my point follows and your point follows. It just determines, or it just depends on who's arguing who. So if you're arguing for a necessary win condition and you successfully do that, then yes, my argument fails to go because I am arguing something that's contingent. So it just depends on who's arguing. That's when we get onto the actual arguments. So if I explain or you agree that my character most likely have disability, and
okay, moving on. Let me get to my argument. I don't care. So you just agreed that your character most likely has disability. So let's get to my argument. This is bad for you.
I believe, bro. Stop. No, bro.
I'm arguing for Wally.
I didn't agree to that. I didn't agree to that.
You said your character most likely.
I said my win condition. Yes, my win condition.
Okay, so moving on. Let me argue.
That's not inclusive towards his abilities. Stop being a dumbass.
It's literally trash. You're calling me a dumbass. You're a loser.
The win condition is not relative to the ability. So it can be the case that the abilities are true to him. So the abilities true. It's true that he has the abilities, but it doesn't mean that that doesn't correlate to the condition at all. That doesn't mean that the condition is probabilistic. It doesn't mean that the condition is a proposition. Jesus. So if I make a propositional claim about the character abilities, that doesn't have to correlate to the position or the win condition. Sorry. Go ahead.
So him having the ability is probabilistic.
I'm saying that given a set of properties, it'll be more reasonable to conclude that my character wins. Jesus.
Is it necessary that he has subjective reality? What's the argument for that?
Is it necessary? Oh my gosh. Can we move on? I'm saying that
necessary. So therefore,
it's true that he has subjective reality.
Based on what?
Given the author stating that he does have this thing.
Is that necessary or probabilistic?
It's true.
What does true mean?
It's corresponded towards this world.
What does that mean?
True. It's a fact about reality.
Fact about reality? Necessary or... So what do you think true is?
Indexed to a world. What? And you want for us to understand, or for us to apply truth to a world or a scenario, would you agree that we need to understand what theory of truth is being utilized here?
So you're saying that if you make a propositional claim about the abilities, that's literally what you said, propositional claim about abilities that does not automatically correlate to the win condition, right? Sure. Ability,
no,
truth.
That doesn't.
That's literally what you said. That's literally what you said. No, I didn't say anything. I just literally repeated what you said. Don't even fucking interrupt me. You absolute No, I didn't say anything. All I did was repeat what you said. Do not start interrupting me. You're literally responding to nothing. You absolute fucking bimbo. Listen, all you said was if you make a propositional claim about abilities, that does not automatically correlate to a win condition. Exactly what you said. So ability truth does not equal outcome truth. This is when someone says Gojo has infinity, which is true, while also saying infinity does not decide this matchup, also possibly true. There's no contradiction. Sure, right? But why this does not make the condition probabilistic, because the lack of correlation does not imply probabilism or whatever, right? That's correct. That's literally what you're saying. That's right. If an ability does not correlate to a win condition, that does not mean the win condition is probabilistic or that the ability is probabilistic.
I'm not saying that.
That's literally what you're saying.
Bro, let me just clarify. I'm saying that, yes, it's not even about the relevance of the ability that's being made about X. I'm saying that if it's true that X has something, that doesn't mean if it's necessary that X has this. So let's say, for an example, necessarily X equals X. That doesn't mean that the win condition is a necessary claim. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that the claims made about the win condition is going to be distinct from the claims made about the properties about the character. That's all I'm saying, brother. So do you want to, so by the way, do you believe the win condition about your character, you're making a necessary win condition about your character?
Moving on. Hold on. I'm not answering that yet. So I'm going to respond to that absolute nothing burger, right? So correct about necessity. Yeah, necessity. Shut up. Listen. So there's two different type of claims that needs to be formally separated. Property claims about X has property P. These can be contingent or necessary, true, independent of any matchup. The example would just be X equal to X, right? So, or necessarily X has property P within the fiction or whatever, right? The necessity is about X, not the outcomes. You fucking idiot. Outcomes claims about X wins against Y. These are relational claims. You're making a relational claim, you absolute bimbo. The truth depends on interaction structure, or ordering, or constraints, or resolution conditions. They do not inherit necessity from property claims. You absolute low tier. Do you know what you're talking about right now? Do you know where you are?
Dude, I just heard a whole lot of nothing. Can you move on to explaining why your character wins?
Oh, so you have no response to that? Okay, I'll give you my argument. You did attack your point. You're absolute low tier.
No, it didn't.
So moving on. I'm going to get to my argument, right? So listen, the argument's framework is just based on, excuse me, my bad. The argument's framework is just based on.
I don't care if the argument is valid. Is the argument
I don't give a fuck. That's not literally not what I'm doing. You absolute fucking bimbo. You're such a low tier. You just said something that you're an idiot. Okay, hang on. So the model topological consequence. You have a problem with that?
A model topological consequence? What is that?
Modal topological consequence.
What is that?
Modal topological consequence is just going to be mixing. It's going to be mixing topology and.
You need to explain to me what that is.
All it means is that an entity, or say for instance,
that's a being. Go ahead.
All it says is that the modal topological reasoning combines modal logic and topological interpretation. Let me explain it to you. Absolute low tier. When we treat existence, don't interrupt me. When we treat quote unquote existence beyond a structure as a modal plus topological claim, that's what that means. And escaping constraints of time, space, causality, and dimensional embedding is equivalent to being exterior to those structures. That's what modal topological is being used in the case.
Wait. No, one is confusing because you use the phrase within a definition. So are you just give me? Just
I used the phrase within a definition. Wait, hold on, low tier. No, I didn't. You absolute. Listen, I can use the word within a definition if I'm extrapolating on it. So I'm gonna say it one more time.
Type out the no. Can you just type out in chat.
No, I'm gonna say it one more time. Low tier.
What you're saying is true. Prove that you're saying is true. Go ahead.
Okay, what we're doing here. What do you mean? Prove what I'm saying is true?
Yes, are you
asking for belief in topology?
I'm asking you why is the claims that's being made upon this stance is going to be true, since you're not going to sit here and just send me.
What are you asking for? Justification upon
I just
topology
told
or
you,
belief?
The claims that you define what it is. I'm asking you, why is your definition actually the definition of what this thing is?
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So for an example, if I say that the definition of a book is a cat, I'm going to skepticize on if the definition is actually true.
I don't care. That's stipulative. Why can't it be true?
What do you mean? Why can't it be true? Oh my gosh. It's
low tier. You don't even know what you're talking about. So stop interrupting and trying to meta. So I'm going to continue. Stop interrupting me. I'm going to just keep muting you until I'm done. So listen, what we're doing with the modal topological reasoning is we treat existence beyond a structure. That's what the quote unquote is. Existence beyond a structure, low tier, as a modal plus topological claim, when what that means is escaping the constraints of space, causality, and dimensional embedding is.
So you believe your character is doing that?
Is equivalent to being exterior to those structures. That's exactly what my character is doing.
Okay, you believe that your character is escaping time and space and all that extra stuff?
He's exterior.
What do you mean by exterior? He's bypassing this thing? He's transcending? He's above?
Idiot. Exterior just means outside.
Thank you. That's literally what the words I use, and pretty much.
No, that was not what the transcendence is. Not being outside, you dumbass.
That's one of the definitions.
That's not what that is. You're a fucking idiot. So moving on. Are you gonna keep interrupting me? Can I get my argument?
I want to respond.
What are you responding to?
I gotta stop it.
What are you responding to?
Oh my fucking gosh! You made the claim that your character is doing this. If it's true that there's a point in time where your character didn't exist, therefore your character is there a point in time that your character didn't exist? within this narrative that is being created by the author.
If this is true, what?
Oh my gosh. Is there a point in time where your character progressed or didn't exist?
I don't understand why this matters.
One, you're making a claim that your character is bypassing the structure of time and space. And obviously, bypassing time and space, your temporal means you never change. But I'm skepticizing this because if there's a point in time where your character exists and now he does exist, there's a sense of change. Therefore, he's not atemporal. I'm just asking if there's a point in time where your character did not exist.
Okay,
there's a point in time where your character changed within the series.
I'm going to answer. You're equivocating between narrative time and ontological time and modal existence. You absolute low tier. So change in narrative.
Why can't it just all be the same within the narrative? Go ahead.
Shut up, fucking idiot. Change in narrative presentation does not imply change in ontological status.
That's a fucking question.
Let's say, are you gonna let me fucking respond? So change in narrative presentation does not imply change in ontological status. From, let's say, quote unquote, there is a point where the character appears in the story. It does not follow that, quote unquote, the character is not eternal or that he is bound by time. The problem with this is that appearance in narrative does not equal coming into existence. A character can be introduced at chapter N or chapter whatever. N signifies some form of numerical value. A character can be introduced at chapter N while the fiction still attributes to them atemporal or transtemporal existence. Narrative ordering is an epistemic sequence for the reader, not an ontological clock for what the character must obey. Give the argument.
One, just an equal interpretation. I already understand that these things can be distinct, but what's in question if it actually is distinct within the narrative? So what is going to be the argument, or what is going to be the substance? I don't care for an argument. What is going to be the evidence supporting this proposition being the case relative to the series?
You know, say the word proposition, nigga. You're asking for you fucking
idiot. It's not an argument.
You're literally trying to meta, but you don't know what you're talking about. So the distinction is substantive. The distinction is in the narrative. So only if the text itself treats narrative sequencing as non-governing for the character's operation. That substance is shown by how the story lets the character function when time causality or spatial ordering fails and ceases to be around him.
You're going not when. That's a question bag.
Oh my goodness. Listen, it's not when the reader first meets it. And I'll answer exactly. And I already answered, even though you just say question bag, you don't even know what you're talking about. So what I'd say, let's go into what actually grounds the distinction inside of a narrative. You're asking, is this an interpretation where we're imposing, or is it the story itself doing the separating? Here's the only thing that counts as substance. Negative governance in text. The narrative explicitly shows or states that space, time, causality do not regulate the character in certain contexts. So the example of substance is acting after time stops or collapsing or removed. Movement or action were explicitly stated to occur outside, beyond, or independent of temporal flow.
This is just a huge.
Do you want the argument, or do you want to get into?
This is just a huge question bag. Obviously, when you're making the claim that your character is bypassing these things, you applied this theory or this proposition or stance towards your character. And what this proposition entails that your character is bypassing the structure of time and space. So from asking you for substance on why that is the case, for any claim that is made about your character bypassing time and space, I'm going to be putting into question on why that said statement will be taken as true. What is the substance on why that said statement will be taken as true if it's the case that is seemingly a contradiction? Your argument is predicated on if these things are distinct. That is dependent, well, to determine on whether it's true that it is distinct is determined by the author. If it's determined by the author, there's going to be some...
All right, moving on. So listen, the claim that Wally bypasses time and space is not a philosophical stance, you absolute low tier. It is grounded in explicit narrative. That's literally what you tried to imply. It's grounded... Do you know what philosophy is?
Oh my fucking gosh. No, I don't have a specific definition.
Okay, you're a fucking idiot. So stop saying it's not the case. Listen, it's grounded. You just said it's not the case. You don't even know what the fuck the case is. So listen, stop interrupting me. It is grounded in explicit narrative substance where the story shows temporal and spatial governance failing while Wally's motion still resolves. That is why the statement is taken true. You absolute imbecile. So what counts as substance for bypassing time? A claim like, Wally bypasses time and space is warranted only if the narrative does at least one of the following things that we could talk about. which is the first one, which would be action after time has ceased to function. The substance criterion with this one would just be if time is stopped, broken, erased, or outran, or whatever may be the case, and the character still moves or acts, then temporal governance has failed for the character. The substance here is just Wally has multiple feats where time is explicitly stopped or collapsing and continues. Outrunning the speed force itself would be the second one, where substance criterion here would be if force is explicitly defined as a mechanism that governs motion through a space-time, a character outruns it. Imagine a character outruns it, then they are no longer governed by the mechanism that regulates motion. The substance here from DC itself is that the speed force is repeatedly described as the source of motion, energy-based space-time movement, and connective phenomenon between across dimensions. Absolute idiot. And the third function would just be doing some form of causal collapse. And the substance criterion for the third one would just be if causality breaks down, the character still acts coherently, then causation is not governing their operation. And the substance for this, since you keep on asking for substance, Wally has feats where cause and effect chains are disrupted and timelines unravel and paradoxes occur. Do you know? I don't even think you know what a paradox is.
Oh my gosh. One, I don't think we should accept paradoxes at all. Secondly, I think your whole argument is just seemingly a contradiction. One, you're arguing that your character is acting without the thing that allows him to act. So the thing that allows him to act within the first place is non-existent. If the only thing that allows him to act is non-existent and he's still acting, it is either the case that it is a logical contradiction, or the statement or the thing that's affirming this thing that is allowing him to act time or whatever is gone. Whatever. The statement is false. So for an example, Elias paradox, for an example, the way we can reconduce the contradiction of the Elias paradox is just changing the interpretation of the statement. So we just say that it isn't a proposition at all. So within this case, I can just skepticize on that. I could just skepticize on whether it's the case that time is actually non-existent here. So when the author is making claims regarding that, I'm just going to be skepticizing on why that's the case. And I want scans, by the way. And about the speed force, yes, that claims regarding the speed force, this be defined within some.
Yo, hold on, you're shotgunning. Listen, moving on. So let me respond to the first thing. Let me respond to the first thing. Stop asking for the scans. We'll get there. Let me respond to the absolute first nothing burger you just said. So listen, absolute here. This is not a contradiction. You just something that you don't even understand. It's not a contradiction. You're confusing a governing condition with a enabling condition. That's the two different things. Remember that in your little small brain. A governing condition and with a enabling condition. Time and space are treated in the narrative as regulators of motion. Low tier Ran, where are you?
Oh, bro. Remember that reverse flash scale that I sent you, bro? Like the Dawn of Time itself one? Bro, I just fried this guy Lando so bad with that, bro.
Were you on there live?
Yeah, like 2 scanned him, bro, and then he ended live while I was getting the 3rd scan. But like, it was bad, bro. Like, it was actually bad. Bro, this guy Jack was in there trying to be like, yo, Lando, nah. He's like, I don't even think he was understanding what I was trying to say, bro. Jack had to like explain what I was saying to him, bro.
All right, Margiela, mute up, bro. Don't interrupt me.
Margiela.
So okay, listen. Let me repeat myself. What you're saying is a contradiction because you're confusing governing conditions with enabling conditions. Those two things are different. Time and space as treated in the narrative as regulators of motion, not as metaphysical fuels or metaphysical fuels, whatever may be the case. Shut up, low tier. You literally said it can act without something that literally gives them motion. So don't interrupt me. As metaphysical fuels, that makes motion possible. That they're not acting as metaphysical fuels, that makes motion possible. That's what you're claiming. Removing a regulator while the operation or whatever persists is not incoherent, idiot. It is exactly how constraint bypass works in fictions. What you're trying to do, you're attacking some form of straw premise. You're attacking some form of straw man. You literally said, you're saying the thing that allows him to act no longer exists. Yes, yet he acts. That's a contradiction. That premise was never asserted. I never fucking said that. The claim was never time is what makes action exist. The claim is time is a structure that normally orders and regulates action. Those two things are different. You absolute low tier. If you remove something that enables existence, you get a contradiction. But if you remove something that governs behavior, you bypass the fucking thing. You absolute idiot. Governing versus enabling, make you absolute understand it. The distinction here is that enabling condition means without it, and the phenomenon cannot exist at all. But governing conditions means without it, the phenomenon is no longer constrained in the usual way. Give the argument now.
One, obviously I wasn't attacking a straw man. I was just making claims regarding the narrative. The interpretation is that my interpretation or the argument that I'm upholding or the position that I'm upholding could be the case within the narrative. If it is the case within the narrative, therefore it will be seemingly a contradiction. Obviously, we're still arguing over interpretation. What's in question is of which interpretation is most likely the case. So obviously, if your interpretation is true relative towards the narrative, the contradiction is reduced. But if my interpretation is true relative towards the narrative, the contradiction is not reduced. I just want scans. That's all.
That's not what that is. Let me explain to you why that's not what that is. Goodness gracious. So your interpretation does not guarantee a real contradiction. That's the problem. Because it misidentifying what the narrative removes. The story removes governance.
Prove that.
I don't know if you know what that is.
Let's get the evidence. Prove that.
I can prove it based on my verbiage right now. Yeah, I don't have to abide by visual representation. Do not interrupt me. Do not have to abide by visual representation. Do not interrupt me, low tier. So listen, stop trying to fucking get a word off. Do not interrupt me. Gracious. The story removes governance, not possibility, idiot. An interpretation that treats time, what you're trying to do, an interpretation that treats time or the speed force as a sole enablers of action is textually weaker than the interpretation that treats them as regulators. So the condition or the contradiction only appears under a misread of what the narrative says the structures do. Frame the actual interpretation. The theme of the interpretative fork that's going on here is that you're right about one thing, only one thing. This is interpretative dispute. That's fine. The question is not about logic versus no logic, idiot. The question is about interpretation A, which is yours, time or speed force. You're saying that time or speed force is the necessary enabler of action. If it's gone, action continues. That's a contradiction. But interpretation mine, which is literally B, would just be time or the speed force is a governing framework for ordering, measuring, straining action. If it stops or if governing and action continues, they bypass. That's not contradiction, idiot. So both are logically possible. Abstraction. Only one is supported by the narrative, idiot. Why your interpretation just likely doesn't even given by the text is like we do not choose interpretations B to save a contradiction. Right? We're not doing that. I'm not doing interpretation to save a contradiction. I'm choosing it because the story itself treats these structures as regulators. The narrative literally signals that time is a regulator, not an enabler.
I'm putting into question the whole entire thing that's being put into question is what you're saying or your verbiage is actually true. So it's everything you say and every claim that you make regarding something external like the narrative going to be put into question. So if you say that Wally West ate a book today, that's going to be put into question. If you say that Wally West beat Superman, that's being put into question. I don't care if it's being stated verbally by you. Like, stop dodging the evidence, my nigga. When we debate, we use evidence from the source. Secondly, contradictions true contradictions depends on interpretation.
What are you talking about? This nigga just said true contradictions. Goodness gracious. The standard, listen.
He's dead ass LARPing, bro. This guy's
You're dead ass LARPing. You're dead ass LARPing.
Listen. Contradictions.
The standard is fine. Margiela,
contradictions are dependent on interpretation. So if I interpret I interpret X to be Q seemingly from my perspective, that is going to be seen as a contradiction because only Q can be Q, Q cannot be A or whatever. So if I say that Q is B, that's going to be a contradiction, even if it's from my interpretation. It doesn't matter, it depends on interpretation. If I read a text or a statement saying that...
Are you going to give me another example, nigga? You already just gave an example. Stop doing that.
Wait, what's this?
Oh my goodness, hold on, wait. Niggas was about to give me 2 examples. Goodness, fuck, you were ass track. Listen. An interpretation does not create contradiction unless it violates what the narrative actually asserts. A contradiction is objective, idiot, not perspective relative. You low tier. If your reading makes the story inconsistent, that is evidence against your own reading, not evidence that of a paradox in the text, you idiot. What a contradiction actually is, this clashes with how I read it, idiot. The contradiction is the narrative commits P and not P under the same interpretation. If that not happening, there's no contradiction, period, you idiots. Your personal interpretation cannot generate a contradiction by itself. It can only all you're doing is misrepresenting the commitments of the text, idiots.
That's what's in question. You see, I like how you use misrepresents, but we don't have any actual evidence on what the text is trying to represent. We're going nowhere. Can we get scans, please?
Okay, I'm going to argument.
I'm not debating you. Like,
you're gonna give the argument.
All you want to say is no. Where's the?
I'm gonna give the argument, and you're doing.
Where's the evidence? Where's the?
I haven't even given the argument, and you're asking for the soundness of it.
Yeah, I'm premising to be true.
What the fuck are you talking about? Oh shit, Blunder.
When you making an argument, what's in question is if the argument is sound or not. You fucking moron. I don't need you to make an argument. Yes,
you just asked for soundness and I didn't give an argument.
Yes, for every argument he's making, I want soundness. That's not a blunder. That's a requirement. What are you saying? You're a dumbass. Just like if you make an argument, the requirement is for it to be valid, you moron. It's not a blunder. Bitch ass nigga, where's the soundness within every argument you make? You don't have any. None of the premises are true. You're just chatting.
I haven't even given
every argument you made is equal interpreted. Where's the evidence, bro? I'm about to leave. You're a low tier. You're not.
Have I given an argument yet?
If
you leave, you're running. You're running.
And what? You're running from evidence.
I've just been dismantling your argument. I'm running from evidence.
Evidence is verbal. You said that your evidence is verbal, but that's put into question.
That's not what I said.
Yes, you did.
That's not what I said.
Earlier,
I said I don't have to abide to visual representation.
He just said he doesn't need like empirical
evidence. Yes, and he said he don't need his evidence.
I don't have to abide to visual representation to prove something.
Why do I have to abide by your verbal speech? Why is your verbal speech true?
I never said you did.
Why is your verbal speech true?
You're a moron. That's not what I said.
Verbal speech too.
That's not
what. You want to go back and rec?
That's not what I'm saying.
Go back to rec. Maybe send me the rec so I can see. I can literally clip it myself. You're a liar, dumbass nigga. I'm not finna like verbal evidence. Oh my god, verbal evidence. Yeah, I said so. It's true. I should accept it. We're debating nonsense.
That's not what anybody said.
We're debating nonsense.
Nobody said that.
Your cause said back and rec. If it's not what he said,
you are blundering bad.
If it's not what he said
for you.
If he's not what he said,
you're blundering bad.
Let's go back and rec. Let's go back and rec. Let's go back and rec.
You were such a low tier. So I'm gonna give the argument.
I don't care for no argument.
I'm gonna give the arguments.
If the premises are not,
I'm gonna give the arguments.
If the premises are not true, I'm gonna leave. By the way,
did I give the premises yet?
Fuck, I said if. Thank you.
Okay, stop. Stay on mute, little boy. Moving on. So what sound means in the context, what you think sound means, right? So we don't talk past each other, right? An argument is sound if and only if the form is valid, if the premises are true and the conclusion is true, and the premises are actually true relative to the narrative. And I'll prove that. And I'll prove both of those.
Thank you. Finally.
So that's what sound means. So shut up. Stop interrupting. Listen. So premise 1, the narrative fact. There is canonical scenes where time ceases to function as the governing structure and stopped collapse outrun. Do you want the argument for that, or do you want the argument for...
I want evidence regarding the series. I want evidence from the series.
What do you think evidence is?
Evidence for in this context when we're talking about a story.
What do you think evidence in this context means? What the fuck does that even mean?
Image in its text.
Nigga, what the fuck do you even mean? Evidence in this context, idiot?
Empirics.
What do you think empirics are?
As visually shown from the five senses, something that we can perceive from the five senses.
It's like evidence is like empirics.
I just said empirics are visually shown.
Bruh.
What?
You were a fucking low tier.
Bro, he's the highest of high tiers.
This nigga's the highest of tiers. This nigga's going to search out what empirics means right now. Idiot! This nigga's a fucking bimbo.
Man, I don't care if people don't know like terminology like that, but it's like, bro, don't pretend to, bro.
Yeah, do not pretend to, bro. That's bad. You absolute bimbo. Number fucking 54. Get off mute. Come get this belt. I'm atomizing you right now. You're nearly done. You need to get your legs now. Come on.
This empirics. Yes, where's the empirics?
I said empirics are visually representative. Can you define empiricism?
What? I don't know the definition of empiricism. I think that empirics is something that's literally just being derived from the senses.
Nigga, are you fucking stupid?
No, I'm not fucking stupid. You bot. Where's the fucking scans, bitch? What are you talking about? You can't
I
get
just
any
give you a burden. You can't define empiricism.
Yeah, I already told. I don't know the definition. I already answered that. I already told you. Where is the scans? I already told you what I think empirics is. I don't see any definition disagreeing with what I'm saying at all, or not entailing what I'm saying in any sort of sense. The fuck? I don't give a fuck about no word for word definition, bro. Where is the fucking scans and Cosmic? Stop being a dictator, bitch ass nigga. I don't know you, faggot.
Yo, what? Yo, I just said the F slur and the hard R N word.
When he said the F slur,
like,
I didn't even notice. Bad, my